Yeah.
So here we are with Tom from Vermont, and he's been very nice to tell us. He's going to tell us about a little bit about his walk. I asked on the forum because I was thinking it would be nice to hear from people that have actually walked it, because I'm sure there are people on the forum and other places that are thinking about walking it, but they have so many questions. So my idea for this interview is to talk to Tom about his walk. He's done actually several, but at least talk to him about his walk, and then ask a few questions about how everything went for him. So hi Tom, you're from Vermont. That's a good place for hiking, isn't it? Vermont in itself?
Yes, we have very good hiking, and actually we have difficult hiking because the trails are much narrower, they're rockier, they're muddy, and so you must always be looking at the ground to see that you are not going to trip on something.
Yeah.
So our hiking is very different from what I've experienced for the most part on the various Camino routes that I have taken.
Yeah. How many walks have you done? How many Caminos have you done?
We have gone every year since 2013, and
Wow.
so and we have been walking a lot with a group of French. They're a family of three sisters and a sister-in-law and two of their husbands. So when we hike with them, they're limited to just 2 weeks because they're still working, most of them, and we tag along and incorporate their 2 weeks, and then we add another week or two of our own.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been immensely interesting because, especially for me, because I speak French pretty well and I can express myself, and we're exposed really kind of deeply into another culture when we walk with this group for 8 or 9 days.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you first hear about the Camino? Was that something was it at church, or did you read about it, or?
Yes, I read something about it. We have here in Vermont the original long distance hiking trail in the United States. It is almost 300 miles, not quite, 275 miles or so. And we started hiking that about 20 years ago, a group of us, and we enjoyed it. And we thought we're going to be done with this 275 miles in no time, even though we were hiking on weekends because we were working, we had families and so on.
Yeah.
So we started to research what we would do next. And honestly, we were overreaching greatly. One of us actually hiked the Appalachian Trail, which is very, very 2,500 miles.
Wow.
I think, roughly.
Yeah.
But he was the only one. So in terms of looking at what we would do next, we heard about the Alta Via and across the Italian mountains and the Camino and some other hikes. So that was the way we found out, just kind of prospecting, reading about hiking, and imagining what we would do after we so quickly, but not quickly at all, completed the long trail.
Yeah. So now, planning wise, so you seem like you knew hiking a little bit before.
Yes.
This wasn't the first time you were hiking when you came to Spain.
We had gear, we had hiking poles, we had tested.
Was there any difference between your pack list, like for what you were doing walking in the U.S. or in Vermont, and compared to what you were doing in Spain?
Very much so, because as I mentioned, we were limited to hiking almost exclusively on weekends. So we would do a day hike and occasionally an overnight hike because we had children then that were still at home, and teenagers. So, so we would just take stuff for the day, but we kind of we became confident about hiking, and we did do some, long hikes of almost 15, 17 miles in these mountains, which are very long hikes. And so, no, we had to buy backpacks, and we have outdoor stores here because we're in a kind of an area where people do a lot of hiking and outdoor ice climbing and skiing and everything, snowshoeing.
Yeah.
So we just consulted there, and I would tell people not to get too wound up or too anxious about making the perfect selection. And I read the forum every day, and I see people kind of tie themselves in knots over things that really, to me, are not consequential when you do walk. You know, you have toeless socks or regular socks or heavyweight wool socks, or, you know, if you just try these things around your house and walk, you know, on weekends for 4 or 5 weekends, you'll have a feeling for what to do, I think.
I remember I remember I saw a post on the forum, this is a few years ago, from someone that actually just went to Saint-Jean, bought a backpack and bought everything there, and then they started walking. And you could do that too. You know.
You can do that. Well, unfortunately, the movie The Way, which is, I know people just revere this movie, many of the people on the forum.
Yeah.
And that is a little misleading, that, you know, the main character, the father, just picks up all his son's gear and puts his boots on and the backpack and just takes off. I mean, that's
that's Hollywood. That's Hollywood. Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, as far as traveling, because so it seemed like you knew what to pack more or less, and I'm sure you know you did some adjustments here and there.
Yes.
But was there one thing that you thought that you forgot at home that when you were walking were thinking, oh, I wish I brought this thing or that thing, or was it like one thing that you kind of missed, or it seemed like you had everything in control, maybe?
Well, we started in Pamplona the first year.
Yeah.
And so, and in Le Puy, there is also, as there is in Pamplona, there is a store.
Yeah.
In the first 5 minutes of walking.
Yeah.
And it was actually very humorous because my wife went into this store and I said, darling, what do we need? We don't we? And as John Brierley says, you usually bring too much the first time.
Yes.
So she said, I need the shell. I want to have the shell.
Okay.
And she might have bought something else, but so she had bought this shell and she tied it on her backpack. And but I was kind of amused that within 5 minutes of starting, we had to stop to go into the shop because, you know,
buy more things.
Buy more things. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
and as far as
you can buy stuff on the most of these routes, you can find things if you do forget it. So it's not once again, don't get too anxious about forgetting something, because you can pick it up on the way.
Another thing that people plan when they plan the Camino, they try to figure out how to do it with flights and everything. And now you traveled to Spain several times, and have you used the same company and the same airline, the same travel route via Paris or via Madrid, or what was the easiest thing for you coming from Vermont?
From Vermont?
Yeah.
By far the easiest for us is Canada. We are 2 hours from the International Montreal Airport. Mm-hmm. And as I've told people on the forum, there's a budget carrier that flies directly from Montreal to Toulouse, Lyon, Madrid, Barcelona, Porto, and that is very, we usually do an open jaw, so we will fly one way to one city to start, and then return from another city, because we walk for 2 weeks, or maybe the first Camino we walked from Pamplona all the way to Santiago. So we came back Porto, and the other advantage for us of that carrier is Air Transat. When you have a budget carrier in a hub from which you fly directly to Europe, the prices are almost always much, much cheaper than getting a connecting flight for us here in the U.S. When you add the connecting flight, it's always more money. And so we drive to Montreal. We have to pay for parking, but it's still much less expensive than taking a flight directly from our small airport here in Burlington, Vermont, in northern Vermont, and then connecting to one of the U.S. hubs to go on. Yeah.
Then you would fly into Madrid and then use the bus from Madrid then, or train, or how did you get?
We've done many things. I'm a pretty experienced traveler, and I like planning the trip. And I use Rome to Rio, which is
Yep.
always recommended on your site. And so we have taken buses, we have taken trains from Charles de Gaulle directly to start the Le Puy route. We have flown to Porto. Let me just think here. No, we flew to Madrid, and we got to Pamplona by train, as I recall.
Yeah. Is there one over the other that you kind of prefer now after having tried these different ways?
Well, actually, many people on the forum, and I disagree with them. They like to fly into Madrid and take the bus because it is very simple. You walk out the door of the international term, T4, I think it is, and there's the bus. But I'm 180 centimeters, so I'm a kind of a tall guy, and I prefer the train. It's and I realize you have to. It's a little more complicated to take, the line into the big main station sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's the same on the reverse. You have to go into the main station and then transfer and go out to the airport to get home.
Yeah.
But it's a simple process, and in a way, my French is quite good. My Spanish is extremely limited.
Yeah.
So, in a way, when you do undertake a walk on the Camino or any kind of big international trip, you need to sooner or later address your humility. You have to say, "Por favor."
Yeah.
I don't speak French, or I don't speak Spanish well. Could you help me? Do you speak English or French? Whatever languages you have.
Yes.
And you have to humble yourself and ask for help.
And usually Spaniards are very helpful in that way. When you see that they see that you're trying, they're very helpful.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the only. It's not as hassle-free to go for example, the train out of Madrid. But I prefer, I can get up, I can walk around, and it's more comfortable for travel for me than the bus.
So do you do that trip on the same day, the day you land? Or do you have a rest day in Madrid, or how do you do that?
We have done many things, and we have done the straight through.
Yep.
And my wife hates it.
Yes.
And so the last time we met, we were going to meet our French friends in. We were going to start in Burgos and meet them a little later, and we went all the way to Burgos, and we got to Burgos on the train. It was 10 o'clock at night, and my wife was unhappy.
Yes.
And she said, "I never want to do this again." And we don't fly business class or anything.
Yeah. Yep.
So I said, "Darling," I said, and I always start in a nice hotel because I like to have a little luxury at the beginning and a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
So I said, "Darling," I said, "I'm going to go out and have some tapas. Do you wish to go with me?" She said, no. Because she was angry. She was mad. It was late. Yeah. She was tired.
Yes.
So I said, "Okay, I'm going to go." And then she relented, and she went with me.
Yeah.
And we find this tapas place. The hotel said, "Yeah, go down here." And they were correct, and we went in.
Yeah.
And I went up and I ordered 2 glasses of Rioja. And by the second glass of Rioja, she was so happy that she had come. And the tapas were delicious.
Yes, I know.
So, but
yeah,
it is probably desirable if you're young and if you're younger. We're not, my wife will turn 70 this year. It's probably better to fly into a place and maybe stay overnight there. However, my personal preference when I make these trips is to split the time between the walk in rural France or Spain or Portugal and time in a big city, whether it's Madrid or Paris or Lisbon, Barcelona. And I'd rather have that time in the big city at the end to kind of cap off and have this different adventure, have this urban adventure in these great cities of Europe.
Yeah.
So I'm in conflict And I may not be able to just satisfy my wife with a good glass of Rioja next time. I may have to start in a nice place, stay overnight,
Yeah.
head on by bus or train, and then, but so
Very good. So then you stayed at a nice place to have a good rest then, I guess, and then
yeah,
you get up and you start walking, and then
yeah.
do you feel like if you start like in Burgos or Pamplona, which I guess you meet a lot of pilgrims the first day you're walking,
Yeah.
and people are worried about if you're traveling alone, will I be alone? That question that comes up a
Yeah.
lot in the forum. Did you feel like the first day you were feeling one with the group, or did you feel like it took a couple of days to kind of get to know the people you were walking with, or how did you feel like did you feel like you were a pilgrim day one?
Well, I think the first day I did this, you were very uncertain. You don't know what it's going to be like in albergue. You have a sense. So then you're kind of, you don't know what's going to happen and how
Yeah.
you'll go to dinner and everything. But when you just start walking, I don't walk so fast anymore. I used to be fast, but I'm not. So people pass me. And if there's more than one person, they'll be talking and they'll be speaking a language. And if it's French, I address them in French. And if it's English, I address them in English, or German. I might say, good day. And where are you from? Where are you from is the best conversation starter anywhere in the world,
Yeah.
especially on the Camino.
Yeah.
And depending on if you initiate that friendly gesture of saying, where are you from? Where did you start? And you get a sense quickly if the people would like to talk long or if they're going to move on at their pace and pass you.
Sure.
So because I walk with my wife, I'm really never alone.
Yep.
Except she's faster than me now, so sometimes she leaves me, and that's okay. She wound up with George from BMW. He was from Munich.
Yeah.
His name was George.
Okay.
And he worked at the BMW place.
Okay.
And George said, "Where's your husband?" And she said, "Oh, he's back there." And he said, "Do you mind if I walk with you?" And she said, "No, of course not." And so it's
That's
so
nice.
so you have to be just comfortable, and yes, you may be anxious in the beginning, as I mentioned, your first day and the first kilometer or two, but
Yeah.
I think most people fall into, especially if they're a little extroverted. I'm extroverted. My wife is more introverted.
Yeah. Now, how would you describe like a typical day on the Camino when you're walking? Is there such a thing, or is every day different, or do you feel like it's the same?
No, I enjoy coming over the hilltop and seeing the horizon or whatever, the vista, especially in Spain, because Spain has a feel to me like the Western United States. It's more expansive. You can see out across these vast plains to the mountains in the distance. France is more like Vermont. It's more closed in, so it has a different feel. But I'm just curious what will be next and about the views and things. So every day is different for me. I don't get bored, and we stop a lot. We will stop at a cafe, and we were hiking with our French group. They will not stop because they have a budget that's very tight, and it's a little restricted as far as the people in the group that have the least amount of money. So they kind of try to not spend money until they have a picnic somewhere and lunch, and then get to the final resting place. But my wife and I are stopping all the time because then we can talk with people. We relax, and other people come up, and that's, to me, the communal feel and communication with people from all over the world is what makes these walks so special.
Yeah.
That's my...
Yeah, it's true.
I don't walk for religious reasons. I walk with a kind of the family of man, walking together towards Santiago, and
So then you arrive in Santiago. How was that the first time? Was it happiness? Was it sadness? Was it how would you? Because I see some people come in on the square in the morning. Some usually about 9:10. Because usually on the front stairs is the last stage is a very short one, so people come in early, and some people are just crying. And how did you have that experience the first time you came into the square?
Well, I think we had been on the first year. We've been going 32 days, 35 days, maybe 35, and so we were ready for it to be over.
Yeah,
I hate to say that.
Yeah,
and but there's a bittersweet because you've enjoyed so much meeting the people. We had some incredible experiences, and to get to the end means you won't be having any more of those. But for me personally, and there was another young woman who felt the same, an American. The walk into the city is unlike anything prior to to Santiago, because you can't really see the spires of the cathedral or anything. You might spot them from that hill, I forget, Monte de Gozo.
Monte de Gozo, yep.
Yeah. But once you leave that elevation, you can't see anything. So you're walking and walking, and as the girl from Oregon said, I was saying, where's that freaking church? Where's that dang church?
Yeah.
Because every town beforehand, you can see the spires of the cathedral well in advance. And it's like a beacon, or it's like a lighthouse for a sailor. You know where land is, and unlike a sailor, you're going to go to that place, and there'll be a place to sit down. There'll be water. There'll be a cafe and a resting place for you. So it's a welcoming vista. It's a welcoming sign to see the spire of the cathedral and the cross and everything in the distance.
Yeah.
But in Santiago, you can't do it. You walk through the city, and all of a sudden you're on the back side of the cathedral.
Yes, you kind of turn around and boom. Yes, exactly.
So that was my feeling. And
now, did you guys go to Finisterre or continue out, or did you stop in Santiago?
The first year we stopped, and then we took a bus out. But last year we walked there from Santiago with the French group. The French group was finishing, and we walked all the way and went up to Musha and around and so on. Nice. That was very nice. Yeah.
Good. And then a lot of times I hear on the forum that people that finish, they go home and they're missing the Camino once they're back home. Did you feel how was it for you coming home and after such a long trip?
Well, you want to keep the special feeling of kind of the constant relationship with your fellow man or woman. And you come back and you fall into routines, and especially you have to go to work.
Yeah.
We were retired when we did that. If you go to work, you just have to get back in the same routines probably. And I think the hardest thing perhaps for me and for many people is that people will say, well, you were walking for a month or more than a month in Spain. What was that like? And you have so many memories. You want to tell them so much.
Yeah.
But their ability to absorb is only a minute or so. Because they and so that's probably the most frustrating. But I kind of know about this, so I know that they're well intentioned when they say tell me a little about it, but if you see their eyes start to glaze or you can read their body language, that's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
And
now I feel like that's a lot of people on the forum are on the forum because there they can actually talk about things that they can talk to people at home about. Yeah.
It's very much the same for any overseas posting. I've worked overseas as a young man and older man, and when you have this unique experience, you can only really communicate it to someone who's kind of had the same experience. It's like going to war, which I haven't gone to war, but soldiers will talk a little more comfortably with another soldier about their experiences than they would with a non-participant. So
great. Well, I do you have any other stories that you wanted to tell about from some of the Caminos you've done, or something that might be useful for someone that is sitting at home, maybe planning a trip, that are maybe worried about something? Do you have any
Well, I said
advice?
before,
Yeah.
I wouldn't get over anxious, and I wouldn't overthink things, like hiking poles. If you have some or you go to the store and the person at the store coaches you and says, I think you could use these, they'd be good. Then you don't listen to the next person who said, I use, these special poles. Those are no good. You can there are differences of opinion about backpacks, about hiking one pole, two poles, collapsible poles. You can go crazy. Just keep in mind that this can be changed when you're there, and it's probably not going to affect the total experience that you have. The very positive experiences will have nothing to do, for the most part, with any of the equipment, any of the things you bring with you, except for your shoes. You got to have boots that fit.
Yeah.
And maybe you want to get a bigger size and talk to them, because when you walk every day with a load on your back, your foot, I think, gets flatter. So we found we needed an additional, even though we day hiked for years and years, we need to go to a longer shoe. But more important is easy for me to say, but I would just say, it's going to be an experience, and you'll enjoy it, and just don't worry about these details. Don't get consumed with these things. And there's packing lists in Brierley's books, and on your forum, you don't need to. You can just follow these in general, and as Brierley says, you'll bring too much the first time, almost certainly, and then you can give it away.
Yeah.
You can send it home, which we did the first year. So don't worry about these things. They're manageable.
Yeah. Very good. Well, thank you, Tom, for sharing all of your advice and your stories, and hope that some people find this useful. Thank you.
Well, I hope so too. It's my pleasure.